1,000 to 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. 1,000 to 3,000 years before Jesus Christ, there was a voice that spoke, and he spoke from Persia, which you now know as Iran. He spoke from Iran, and he impacted totally your life. And the thing is, you've gone to church all of your life, and you haven't the slightest idea who he is. Nobody ever told you about him. No preacher ever told you about him. No rabbi ever told you about him. No evangelist has ever told you about him. You went to the New Age, and you got rocks, and you got smoke, and you got feathers, but you don't know anything about him. Nobody ever told you about him. Now you're sitting here and say, who is this? He was the first voice that spoke out of the deserts of Iran and said that the struggle that is inherent in life is the struggle between light and darkness. Nobody said it before him. Many have said it after him. It's quoted in the Bible all the time. And you'll see people get up and stand and they'll say, well, this is a struggle between light and darkness, never knowing that this originated from Zoroaster, the Persian prince, Zoroaster, the prince of Iran, Zoroaster, the prince of Ahura Mazda. And what he said was, light pervaded, but then lies and deception came in. Lies and deception came in. Zoroaster was a living symbol of the truth. He thought according to the law. He spoke according to the law. He was the holiest in holiness above all the living world, the best ruling and exercising who the brightest in brightness was, the most glorious in glory, the most victorious in victory. And it says, at his sight demons fled. That's what it was said about Zoroaster. At his sight demons fled. The birth of Zoroaster marked the opening of the final 3,000 years of what they call the 12,000 years of the world. It's a time when the Messiah appears to culminate the victory over the lies and to establish the kingdom on earth. When does this happen? As you're sitting here now, you're in the age of Aquarius. Okay? It says in the scriptures, and it says in the same scriptures of Zoroaster, that at the time that the blood reaches the horse's neck, there is 1,000 years of peace. What that means is in the age of Aquarius, when the sun reaches that which is the neck of Pegasus, then all of this peace comes for 1,000 years. That was the teachings of Zoroaster. That was the teachings of Jesus Christ. Go to page 1014 in the Bible. Look at Revelation chapter 20. 1014. Revelation chapter 20. And look at verse 6. Blessed is holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ and shall reign with him 1,000 years. That was the teachings of Zoroaster. That's the teachings of your Bible. The reason that it is in your Bible is because it originated with Zoroaster. That there would be a change. Something was going to happen. And it was going to happen during the age of Aquarius, and it was going to happen when the energy of the sun touched the neck of Pegasus. Then there was going to be a change in the way you think. That's why you're sitting in here. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you're listening to me. That's why we share with one another. That's why the thoughts that come into your mind now you're not thinking the way you used to think. You're not reading the way you used to. You look at this Bible. You know what? Have you spent your whole life reading this Bible? Literally. You've spent your whole life reading this Bible literally. You believe the words that you saw in the Bible, not knowing that these words are symbolic and they're not supposed to be read literally. And so you made up all of these stories, and then you had preachers make up stories, and you got stories of fish swallowing people. There is a story in here of a fish swallowing a man. He stays in the intestines of the fish 3 days. The fish pukes. The evangelist pops out, and you bought it. You say, yeah, this is it. This is my faith. My faith is built on this. You got two English people named Adam and Eve running around in a garden somewhere with no clothes on. A snake comes, gives her an apple, she eats it, and the whole thing goes down the drain. And this is the foundation of your religion, and you wonder why everything's screwed up. And so then people come and they come into church. And does anybody question it? Does anybody stand up and say, hey, tell me, is this what you believe? I mean, is this true? Nobody says what you like. You're looking at me. Ain't none of me. All right, pass the plate, pass the hat. Come up, sign the card, you'll go to heaven. Because all that you've ever expected out of this thing was misery until finally you dropped dead and went to heaven. And you showed up because maybe there is such a place. Not knowing that you were supposed to create the heaven here on this earth by changing it, by making a change. Here's a man that came 4,000 years ago and spoke of this change that could be made by you. And you know what? Not one of your preachers, not one of your pastors ever mentioned his name. You had no idea. If some guy wrote an obscure symphony somewhere, so all sorts of practices of the Thrusta, you don't even know, never even heard of it. It's not interesting to you. It's not there was anything. Jesus Christ never said anything new. His name wasn't even Jeheshua. Never said anything new. Everything he said came from somebody else. And the person that said it before him got it from somebody else. And it all traces itself back. And you can trace it back to the very, very beginning. Whenever the big burp happened and all of this stuff started coming down all over the earth. Here's the answer. This is what you do. This is what you do. And so what do? The thing that is apparent is that all of the aspects of Christianity are the same aspects that came from Zoroaster 1,000 to 2,000 years before Jesus was born. What I'm saying to you is everything that you'll find in the Bible attributed to Jesus Christ originated with this strange voice that came out of Iran 1,000 to 2,000 years before Jesus was born. The influences of this prophet and Ahura Mazda are mind-boggling when you consider the impact that they had on the Judeo-Christian ethic, directly related to Zoroaster and Ahura Mazda. Let me tell you what Zoroaster was responsible for. Do you believe, I know you do, or at least the religious do, the Christians do, that Moses originated the Ten Commandments? No, he didn't. No, he did not. They were originated by a gentleman by the name of Ezra. And Ezra was the Jew who was in captivity in Babylon. And Ezra became a follower of Zoroaster and Ahura Mazda. And Ezra became proficient. Do you know that prior to coming into captivity in Babylon, God's chosen people wandered around collecting rocks? They knew nothing, they accomplished nothing, they wrote nothing. They were rock pilers. Split rocks, moved rocks, and wandered. And what did they do? I don't know where I'm going, and I'm going to get there. I'm at the promised land, here I am, I'm getting busy, where is it? And they wind up in Babylon. And you know what happened when they wind up in Babylon? They come out as scholars. They went to the pagan Babylon of Zoroaster, and the God's chosen people that were rock splitters come out of Babylon as scholars. And this one here came out with the law. And this is the Ten Commandments that you read in the Bible were authored by Ezra in Babylon under the stewardship of Zoroaster, the god Ahura Mazda, and the great king of Iran, Artaxerxes. The temple! Why, the temple was constructed as, this is the whole thing. It's going to rebuild the temple of the Jews. Tell you, who was responsible for reconstructing the temple of the Jews? Our friend, Zoroaster. Had nothing to do with the Jews, had nothing to do with Moses, had nothing to do with Jerry Falwell, had nothing to do with the Christians or the Catholics or the Protestants. It had to do with the strange voice that came out of Iran thousands of years ago. And this voice came down to the king of Persia, the king of Iran, whose name was Cyrus, and he said, build the temple. He was a follower of Zoroaster and Ahura Mazda. The one you know is Jesus. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, How sweet the flows, it came upon a midnight clear. Oh, the holy night, ba, 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 ba. And then the big part of this thing. We three kings of Orient are, blop, 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 here in a jar. Guess where they came from? Guess where they came? Do you know who the three kings were? The Magi. Do you know who was the Persian prophet prince of the tribe of Magi? Zoroaster. What have you got that's original, Christian? Fakakta, you got nothing. You originated nothing. You originated not the law. It was originated through Zoroaster. You originated not the temple. It was originated through Zoroaster. And you didn't even originate the kingship of Jesus Christ. It was originated through Zoroaster. And I'll tell you what Zoroaster was, the Persian prophet prince of the Magi. They were astrologers. That's why it said, we have seen his star in the east. Meaning, in Iran, in Persia, we have studied the stars, we understand them, and we see the sign Coma in Virgo, and we have followed that, and this leads us to this place of the kingdom, the child. The king, the child within. All came out of a place. And here's the thing, how old are you? You know the thing is, nobody ever told you this. And you've gone to church and you take your kids because I want my kids to get in it. I want them to know our faith. Do you know? You don't even know what your faith is. You have no idea that your faith is attributed to this guy Zoroaster. Zorro who? I don't know Zorro. And you know, this is the amazing thing. This is a documented. We're going to look at the Bible and prove this. This is the amazing. But it's in the Bible. It's a documented proof of historical accuracy. And you know what? You couldn't walk into one Christian church and tell them. They'd freak. They'd throw you out. They'd call the cops. We don't want to hear it. I want to hear it. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I was raised a Catholic. I'll be born a Catholic. I'll die a Catholic. It's like my mother was. I'm raised a Catholic, born a Catholic, die a Catholic. I've never set foot in the church. Last time she set foot in the church, the priest threw a Bible at her. That's true. My mother we went to these church Catholic schools, and she had one of my brothers got in trouble with the priest, and so my mother went down. She was a very tough woman, and I guess she was going to take a poke at this guy. Something happened, and he threw a Bible at her, and that was it. She never showed up again, but she made us go. You will not miss. Why don't you go? Hey, you go. That's the way it was. But see, I had to wait. You see, why do your children? You know what? You would even be afraid to teach. Why do your children have to wait until they're 50 years old before somebody tells them the truth? I mean, you told them the Easter Bunny brings candy, Santa Claus brings toys, and Jesus died for you. Well, you've lied about 2 out of 3, probably lied about all 3. Who's to believe you? And when is somebody going to have the... See, the point is, you couldn't tell them the truth because the system doesn't want them to know this. You know? Because how would it be if you find out that your religious tradition does not come from Jerusalem, does not come from Rome, comes from Iran? And there's a guy with a white beard and a black hat saying, I adore you so. Yeah. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? You don't have to depend on New Age bookstores to find this out either. It's right in here. It's in the book. It's in the Bible. King James Bible. Did I tell you King James was a homosexual? Oh, where'd you hear that? There's some guy sat in the back. Where'd you hear that? I spent my life digging up stuff like that. It's true. King James was a homosexual. Didn't you think the Pope should have caught on when Michelangelo was putting all those nude statues of these guys hanging out? Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's all over the place. Hey, Mike, got any with shorts? Nah. I mean, big ones, too, this guy. I think... I honestly... Did he do the stuff down at Caesar's Palace? You know what? And when you can laugh at it, when you've got the courage to laugh at this stuff, then you're free. When you've got the